Welcome aboard. Justin here from Swift, Silent, Deadly. Today we're going to review this pistol, the Wilson Combat SFX9. The SFX9 is the second in Wilson's EDC X9 series of double stack 1911 style pistols. The first was the EDC X9, the SFX9 came next, and finally we're on the SFT9, which I do not own, have no experience with, so I won't speak to it, just the SFX9. Before we get into this, I should discuss my relationship with Wilson Combat, which can be summed up as this: I'm a customer. Wilson Combat doesn't know I exist. I purchased this pistol from them. I've also had a little bit of custom work done. I own a Wilson Combat shotgun, some things like that. I recently wrote an article about their ETM magazines. I paid full price for all of these things. Wilson Combat doesn't offer me an affiliate relationship or pay me for this review or even loan me the gun. I purchased the gun out of pocket, as well as all the accessories and ammunition for this review. And with that out of the way, this review will be conducted in 5 segments. First, we'll take a look at the gun itself, the features of the gun going from the muzzle all the way to the base pad of the magazine. Then we will jump into the REAP methodology, covering reliability, ergonomics, accuracy, and finally, portability. Then I'll give you some final thoughts, what I think about this gun. So let's go ahead and jump into it, starting at the muzzle. First of all, this barrel is a 4-inch barrel. It is available in 3 1/4 and 5-inch lengths as well. I chose the 4-inch barrel. I think it's a good all-around length. It's what everything seems to kind of be going to these days as a standard size duty type gun, the Glock 45, Glock 19. Now, one of my favorite things about this gun is how well blended and crowned that muzzle is with the frame itself. Beautifully, beautifully well done, and that is a beautifully recessed muzzle crown. It blends so flawlessly with the end of the slide. You've doubtlessly noted that the barrel itself is a coned barrel, a bushingless barrel, a bull barrel, whatever you want to call it. There's several different names for it, and it is fluted. That fluting may provide a little extra barrel rigidity, may provide slightly faster cooling, may provide some other benefit that I'm not even aware of. I think most possibly it provides a place for dirt to fall into, so it's less intimate slide to barrel contact to potentially foul the operation of the gun. But speaking realistically, it's probably just for looks. That being said, boy, it sure does look good, and I love the fluting on the barrel hood. This is a exceptionally good looking pistol. Just below the barrel, we have the guide rod. This is a full-length guide rod without a barrel bushing. However, it does have an end cap with a hole in it to allow the guide rod to pass through. The spring is not captive. As you take the gun apart, you do have to maintain that spring. So there are 3 parts total in the recoil system: the guide rod, the recoil spring, and that end cap. Now, some of these guns do come with a traditional barrel bushing and a 2-piece guide rod. My friend's EDC X9 that you see compared in some of these videos with the SFX9 does have a traditional barrel bushing, so something to be aware of. If you're ordering one of these guns, you need to know what you want and choose the one that has the barrel and recoil setup that you would like to have. Personally, I'm fine with either. They both work if well executed, and this gun is nothing if not well executed. Now let's take a look at the slide itself. We have Wilson Combat's signature X pattern cocking serrations fore and aft on this gun. That X kind of theme is carried out everywhere there's checkering on this pistol: the front strap, the back strap, fore and aft of the slide. There's also a slight relief cut at the tip of the slide, again, to give you just a little bit of purchase when you go to do a press check, when you go to run the action from the front of the gun, whatever the case may be. This is a tri-cut slide. It's not flat on top, it's not rounded, it's tri-cut. It has that triangular look to the top of the slide. The top of the slide does have beautifully well executed serrations which cut down on glare, and I do find these to actually work. This is one of those things that, you know, was a popular custom 1911 thing in the 80s and 90s that you're like, was that actually practical or functional? I actually do find that that works really well. At the rear of the slide, just for of the rear sight, we have a Wilson Combat logo. And man, does this thing look good, and it's perfectly placed, and it's blended beautifully with the slide. One of the complaints I hear about this gun is that it's essentially a production pistol, and no one wants to pay $3,000 for a production pistol, and I understand that. This is not a custom gun. You do, however, get some features on this gun, like that logo and like those serrations across the top of the slide, that you would pay a lot of money for in a custom pistol. This is a production gun, but is it worth the money? I think you get about what you get out of a custom gun of similar price. It's that well fit and finished. The rear of the slide is serrated as well, again to cut down on glare, perhaps give some purchase when bumping the slide forward. Let's take a look at the sights. The front sight on this is an Ameriglow sight that I placed on this gun. It came with a standard Wilson Combat fiber optic. I replaced it with an Ameriglow high visibility front sight. It has a tritium tube with a big orange ring around it. The rear sight is Wilson's proprietary fixed battle sight. The sight has a big U-notch that I don't find ideal for precision work. However, I was able to achieve reasonable good accuracy with it, and it has some serrations around the rear of the sight. It also has a ledge to allow you to conduct one-handed malfunction clearances and things of that nature with the gun, one-handed manipulations of the pistol. You'll also notice that this gun has an external extractor. You 1911 purists will hate that. I personally love it because I don't have to, pre-order 3 or 4 tuned extractors to this gun or buy a jig to tune extractors to a gun. I can just pop out a pin, pop a new extractor in, and replace the pin, and I'm done. Personally, I prefer the external extractor. I'm not a purist. I'm a user. I'm an operator. I don't buy safe queens. I buy shooters. So I like being able to replace that high wear and tear part. The firing pin is traditional 1911, and that gets us into some features on the frame, like the safety. So this manual safety is ambidextrous. They are not all ambidextrous. However, to my knowledge, they are somewhat extended like this. Safety is very audible and tactile feedback up and down. The slide release is extended and provides excellent purchase. Have no complaints whatsoever about this slide release. Moving forward on the frame, there is a rail to allow for the mounting of accessories. I have a Streamlight TLR1 HL that pretty much lives on this gun. It's a great combination, and it provides a little bit of balance that I actually really enjoy the feel of. The trigger guard is rounded, and the trigger in this instance is a 3-hole trigger. Wilson Combat does offer a flat face trigger. This one is curved, and the face of the trigger shoe is serrated, as you may be able to see in the camera there. And let's take a look at the trigger pull itself. It is one of the best triggers I've ever had the pleasure to work with, and that includes the custom Nighthawk 1911 that I carry on an everyday basis. So we've got just a little bit of play there, maybe a millimeter of play. Then we hit the wall. Let's go ahead and press. About 4.5 pounds. Almost no movement at all. Very little movement. 0.5 millimeter movement, maybe. It is minute. And that is the trigger. It is absolutely outstanding. This gun does have an ambi safety. I've already talked to the safety a little bit. This one is ambidextrous. They are not all ambidextrous. That is an important feature to me. If you don't like an ambi safety, which some people don't, you need to be aware of that and choose one without an ambidextrous safety. This gun also has no grip safety. I'm a grip safety guy. I like it. I don't mind it. I don't find it detrimental in the least. Some people don't like it, and that's fine. You can have it your way, but not on the Wilson Combat SFX9. The grip itself is more or less solid, so we can't exchange grip panels. The grip doesn't come off the frame like a 2011 does. This is not a 2011, by the way. It is a double stack 1911 style pistol, but it's not a 2011, as evidenced by the fact that the grip is integral to the frame, all machined out of the same piece of aluminum. This grip is pretty cold in the wintertime when you're starting shooting in the morning. Forgot to talk about the magazine release. The magazine release is extended, but not oversized, and there is a relief cut in the left grip panel for the magazine release. Magazine releases smoothly and cleanly. It's easy to get magazines back up in there. I believe there are magazine funnels available for this gun, though I don't know how necessary they are considering the size of that magazine well, and the tapered nature of the magazine allows for smooth, easy insertion of the magazine. Magazines are of the 15 or 18 round variety, maybe smaller capacities on the subcompact SFX9, SFT9 models. This is the 4-inch compact. This is essentially the Glock 19 of the SFX9 series. Now, my thoughts on this gun. It is exceptionally well fit and finished. With over 2,000 rounds, this gun still essentially looks brand new. There's a little bit of wear pattern on the barrel. Once you get into the internals, you can see a little bit of wear here and there. This gun still essentially looks brand new. It is beautifully, beautifully done. It's like this slide is rolling on ball bearings. It is just incredibly, incredibly smooth. I do keep this lubed with Wilson's Ultima Lube, but how does it do? Let's jump into the REAP methodology, beginning with reliability. This gun is reliable. I have fired exactly 2,074 rounds through this pistol. My first session of 150 rounds was a disaster. I wanted to send this gun back, or at very least write Wilson Combat a nasty gram. I had no fewer than 23 malfunctions. This is all with high quality factory ammunition. All these malfunctions were one of two categories. They were a failure of the slide to return completely to battery, which requires just a little bit of bump of the slide to get it back in the battery, but suboptimal for sure. And a bunch of and a bunch of premature slide locks, the slide locking to the rear before the magazine is empty. I got so used to that happening that there was actually an instance where the gun locked to the rear on an empty magazine, and I let the slide go home because I was so used to that slide locking to the rear prematurely. After that first 150 rounds, I had no malfunctions of any kind. Currently, I'm at 1,924 rounds without a single malfunction, hiccup, bobble, anything at all. I've shot this with 115 grain, 124 grain, 147 grain, and 150 grain. So from lightweight, the cheapest Winchester white box you can get, all the way up through some heavy 150 grain subsonic ammunition that has a shorter cartridge overall length, truncated type bullet. This gun is fed everything flawlessly, including some Federal HSTs, which is tend to be my preferred carry ammunition. This thing has digested everything without a hiccup whatsoever. It is run like a Singer sewing machine. I am very happy with the reliability of this pistol. I would bet my life on it in a heartbeat. I would carry this on duty, no qualms whatsoever. Ergonomics. It's also a very ergonomic pistol. It is essentially a slightly wider 1911. Now, one of the things I love about a 1911 is how thin the grip is. This is a double stack, which seemingly would make it a substantially larger grip. However, it's not really that much bigger. This grip has been thinned down to the absolute minimum, and there's no grip panels on it. All the texturing is built directly into the grip. So we have that X pattern on the front strap and the back strap, the Wilson Combat Sunburst pattern on the side panels. It's built directly into the grip, so there's no need for additional grips increasing that overall width. Even with my relatively small little girl hands, I can still grip this gun very, very well. My hand falls directly on that thumb safety, giving me a little bit of gas pedal on the gun. It feels really, really good. It feels a lot like a 1911, just a little bit, a plus size 1911, a deluxe 1911, if you will. I still love the feel of this, not quite as much as a 1911, but it's still outstanding in my hands. Everything else about this gun is phenomenal. The safety is exactly where is the same as the 1911, exactly where you want it to be, exactly where you need it to be. All the other controls, the magazine release, the slide release / stop latch, the slide latch is where you want it to be. There's no sharp corners on this thing. It's a exceptionally ergonomic pistol, and it's almost exactly the size of a Glock 19. So in a nutshell, ergonomics, if you're a 1911 guy, you're probably going to love this pistol, despite it being just ever so slightly bigger to accommodate those double stack magazines. Accuracy. The accuracy of this pistol is phenomenal. I shot this pistol at 100 yards, at 75 yards, 50 yards. I think the drill that illustrates accuracy the best is my score on the 700 aggregate, also known as the Humbler. This 70 round drill is all fired at 25 yards on a B8 target, scored as marked with 700 total possible points. I scored a 624 on this, which is not quite in that 90% mark, but boy, is it close. I surprised myself shooting that well with this pistol on that drill in wintertime when it was cold. I also shot a number of other drills with this pistol. I shot the Gunsight 250 drill and shot a 37 out of 50. It doesn't sound great, Let me tell you, that Gunsight 250 drill is no joke. I shot the Hackathorn standards and shot a 243. So anything above a 250 is considered excellent. Anything 200 to 249 is considered acceptable. So I'm in that high acceptable, just at the edge of that excellent range. Love to move up, but I'll be honest, it's a long, complicated, tedious drill to run, frankly. The BATFE qualification. I think this is a phenomenally well-rounded qualification. I dropped one round for 2 points, for a 96 out of 98 possible points on the BATFE qualification. Very happy with that score. Again, illustrates a lot about this particular pistol. On the old Bakersfield PD qual, one time I shot that and recorded it. I shot a 99% on the old BPD qual. I think that qual is an excellent test of balancing speed and precision. If you can pull off 100 on the old BPD qual, you're doing pretty good. The 5-yard roundup, I shot a 98 with this pistol. The 5-yard roundup is an excellent low round count gauge of where you're at with the pistol. The FBI qualification, I shot a 100% with the Wilson Combat SFX9. Almost not even breaking a sweat. This was a very easy drill to pass with the SFX9. The Wilson 5x5 skills test. This is kind of the gold standard of where you stand with a handgun. I pulled off a 24 even, and that was with one penalty. And that is in the expert rating with this Wilson Combat SFX9. El Presidente, I did not have a great run. The one time I recorded El Prez with this gun, I shot an 11.15 with 2 rounds down. So not only was I over the 10-second standard, I also dropped 2 rounds. Now, I can sit here and talk about other drills I've shot with this thing all day. That's a pretty good sampling of drills, all high passes with the Wilson Combat SFX9. The one thing I will note is this Wilson Combat battle sight. It sits pretty high up, and it has a big U notch. I found this gun a little bit harder to be precise at 100 yards with, it's 100 or 50 yards with, than something like my Nighthawk Custom with a square notch rear sight. I found this, just due to the sights, harder to aim precisely with some slightly tighter sights. These are very combat oriented, big sights with slightly more precise sights. I'm sure the accuracy out of this thing would have knocked my socks off. And that's not, again, that's not any kind of boast on me. I'm sure this thing would have done exceptionally well on its own merits. Accuracy, I don't think, is something you have to worry about with the SFX9. Now let's talk about portability. This thing is Glock 19 sized. It handles like a Glock 19 with a 1911 grip angle and manual safety. I really like this pistol. Now I carried this in 2 holsters, or I shot this out of 2 holsters. I shot it out of my Filster Floodlight OWB, which I have on my, little war belt, quote unquote. No problems there at all with that Streamlight TLR1 HL. I also carried this concealed a little bit with a holster that I purchased from Legacy Firearms. Now, there are a number of holsters that will fit the Wilson Combat SFX9. I don't have a list of them, but I am told that pretty much anything will take a 1911 with a rail will handle the Wilson Combat SFX9. If you're looking for duty holsters, I'm told that some of the Safariland holsters for staccatos for that particular optic light gun combination will accept the Wilson Combat SFX9. And by the way, this gun is available with the provision to mount a red dot optic. So you can mount an optic on this gun if you so choose, but you have to choose that option from the factory when you buy the gun. You have to buy one that's optic ready. That said, this gun carried very well. If you are a Glock 19 guy thinking about getting into this, one thing to be aware of is that beaver tail and hammer, they do stick out and create a pointy thing. So every time you bend over, you get jammed in the ribs. Just kind of the fact of life carrying a 1911 though, not something I'm not used to or unaccustomed to. Let's talk about weight just a little bit. The weight of this gun is not onerous at all, largely owing to that aluminum frame. Empty, this gun weighs about 26 ounces, which is a little bit heavier than a Glock 19, but not much. Loaded with a full magazine, 15 rounds and 1 in the chamber. This gun comes in right around 37 ounces, so totally doable. This is not a crazy heavy gun. Okay, so let's get into final thoughts just a little bit. What are my final thoughts on the Wilson Combat SFX9? First, let's address price. I get a heck of a deal on this gun. They generally go for somewhere between $3,000 and $4,000. I would say nominally $3,200 to $3,500 bucks Certainly some more expensive ones. Certainly you can find some bargains. I got a very, very good deal on this pistol, brand new, through Gunbroker. Now, is it worth it or not? And that is a question that only you can answer. This is a phenomenally well-built pistol. It is not a custom gun, and that is a complaint I've heard from some gun snobs, like, I wouldn't pay that much for a production gun, and I get it. However, I don't think a production gun brings anything, or excuse me, I don't think a custom gun brings anything to the table, quality and build-wise, that this gun doesn't. This is an exceptionally well-built pistol, production gun or not. I have zero complaints with it from that perspective. Reliability, 100% on point after those first few rounds. Accuracy, ergonomics. Ergonomics are beautiful. Safety's where you need it to be for a gun that's much bigger than a 1911. In capacity, it's not much bigger physically. Accuracy. I'm able to do everything that I want to do accuracy-wise with this pistol. And portability, yes, holsters are available for it. Yes, it's compact, and yes, it's lightweight enough to carry on an everyday basis, even though this isn't going to replace anything that I traditionally carry. This is the backup gun for my everyday carry 1911. However, this would be what I shifted into if my 1911 went down for one reason or the other. If you're considering the Wilson Combat SFX9 in any of its variants, the 3.25, the 4-inch, the 5-inch, I don't think you'll go wrong. I think this 4-inch meets the needs that I have for this gun, which is a backup concealed carry gun plus an open carry gun in my, my range LARPing gear. I think this gun is going to live up to your expectations. I don't think you will be disappointed in a Wilson Combat SFX9. Again, this is a sample size of 1. I did purchase this out of pocket for my own personal use. There's been no contact whatsoever with Wilson Combat since I got my short barrel shotgun back from having some work done to it 6 months ago. So this is my completely unbiased, and by the way, I wasn't super happy with Wilson Combat on that little transaction, but story for another time. I don't think you'll go wrong with the Wilson Combat SFX9 if it is something that you can afford. I think it's something absolutely worth looking at. With all that said, I sincerely appreciate you watching this long, tedious video of me talking. If you're a patron, man, thank you so freaking much. It means the absolute world to me. It pays for ammo. It pays for range time. It pays for driving back and forth to and from the range. It pays for buying holsters from these esoteric, weird guns that I get into and like to review. And you will see more reviews coming soon. Thank you so much, patrons. If you're not a patron, please consider becoming one. Patreon.com/Swift, Silent, Deadly. Until next time, stay dangerous.